Thank you guys for being here. Welcome to our lovely health and wellness art session today. My name is Hannah. I know that this is a very new program, so as such, it will be evolving and morphing based off of what you guys want to create as well. So I hope you guys have fun with it. Just to give a brief little introduction to myself, I do have multiple sclerosis. I was diagnosed in 2017, June 28th. So I remember that day very, very vividly. And I used art to help me basically cope with everything. I used art to help me cope with the physical symptoms as well as the mental health aspects that went along with it. And I do have formal training in art, and I've been teaching for about 6 years now, maybe something like that. Not always in the field of arts and healthcare or arts as therapy, but I have been teaching cancer patients, though, with the nonprofit that I work with. So I do hope that you guys have fun with these kinds of projects, and I'll try to like spice it up and do different things every week. So as mentioned before, I am using crayons and paper, and that will be our main things for today. So no need to get any napkins or anything. If you happen to be heavy-handed like myself and you break a crayon, that is okay, because it just happens. They're crayons. So let me just sort of describe what we have here. I just have a regular paper, and I love to travel and I love to hike and do different things. I don't always get to do that. In fact, I rarely get to do that these days. So you can imagine my head is kind of always in the clouds. So I'm always thinking of nature scenes. And that's actually what I love to draw and paint and create with my own art. And so I have here it's called Lofty River Fields, and this is kind of like a dreamscape. This is something that I'd want to go to in my dreams, so think of it as you will. This is actually one that I put mountains in. The river is just a little bit more complicated here, but the way we create it is going to be the same. So what I'll do, if you want a mountain view, is you'll put in this line right here. I call this the horizon line. You'll put this line in here first, then you'll create your mountains on top of it, and then we'll begin our river. If you're not going to have any mountains in it, then you're just going to start with the river portion. So I'm actually going to do mountains in the background just in case there are people here who want to have mountains. But like I said, if you don't want mountains, then you're going to start whenever we do the river portion here. So without further ado, let's actually set aside the crayons that we're going to be using. So I have a lot of crayons, okay? And I'm just going to tell you right now that I love going to crayons because they just kind of bring back the child in me, my inner child. It makes it really easy to do these kinds of scribble marks, which is actually the focal point of this picture. So here we have my main green. So I want you guys to look for 3 different greens, or maybe even 2 greens and a yellow if you don't have 3 greens. So I've got like a light green here. I want to say, what is it here? It's yellow green. So your greens, any of your colors do not have to be the same. And in fact, I always encourage you guys to make it your own. Just be creative with it, be fun with it, use anything you want or anything you have at your disposal. So I always encourage that. So I have my main green, and let's look for a dark green. So I think I had like asparagus. I think that's what it's called. Oh, nope, I had regular green. So light green, regular green. But of course, if you have any other funky greens, then please, by all means, go for it. And I happen to have green yellow, but honestly, green yellow and regular yellow look very, very similar. So it really doesn't matter if you have this or not. Let's see. I also have one different kind of blue for up here or for the river, but also another kind of blue if you happen to have a sky. So if you have a sky, then choose a second blue. If you don't have a sky, then you just need one plus purple. Actually, everybody needs purple. Something I haven't mentioned yet, but I do highly encourage you to have a little, is it an extra sheet of paper just to color test? Like this is a pretty nice blue. I could use that, but it's pretty dark. So test paper is always a good idea. This is a nice bright blue, so I'm gonna go with this one. So just kind of set that aside, my bright blue. Then I need a purple, so let's look for a purple. That's a pretty nice purple. I could actually stick with that one, kind of like it. This is the same purple I use for these mountains. So I think I'll actually stick with the dark purple. Also, if you're going to have mountains, you're welcome to have two different types of purples or the same kind of purple for both the river and the mountains. It's totally up to you. Again, customize as needed. And in one of these pictures, I actually have some flowers. They're actually just tiny little dots. I don't know if you guys can see that. So I have like a reddish orange color and a pink for my flowers. It's completely up to you if you want them at all. This one doesn't have any flowers, so you can decide that later if you want. Just kind of set that aside. Now I think we can begin. So if you guys are ready, let's go for it. Again, crayons just kind of, at least for myself, they bring out the playful nature that everybody has, or everybody used to have as a kid. And so whenever I was going through my MS diagnosis, it really, really helped for me to scribble. And I was actually trained as an artist. I went to art school. And so the thought of me scribbling, like if you would have asked me 10 years ago that I'd be scribbling now in my 30s, like I would never believe you. There's no way. But this kind of movement and just sort of the way of looking at things really helped me to sort of let go of anything that was holding me down mentally. So let me just sort of get you guys started. So if you want mountains, we're going to start with this horizon line. So pick a green, any green. It honestly doesn't matter. I'm not going to use that paper. Set that aside. Okay, so I want to have a little bit of space here for my mountains. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. An okay space for mountains. And then I can have a straight line going across or not. You really don't have to put a straight line there. I will have to say that after using crayons after a little bit, it might get a little bit tiring. You'll see a little bit later, but if anytime you need to, please feel free to just take a break. Just, rest your hand. You'll definitely see me resting my hands. So anyway, if you want mountains, here's how you draw them. I always like to start with a tall mountain, kind of draw that back there, make it really dip down at some point, make it really come back up at some point, dip down again as many times as you want. If they're desert mountains, they can plateau a little bit. So no need to overthink it, just kind of put it all in there. And then I colored my mountains in. So I am going to do that. Think of this as a nice little warm up. And I always like to press down hard, which is, again, why I warned about breaking your crayons. So just watch out for that. Like I mentioned, I am pretty heavy-handed and I'm not ashamed of it. Again, take your time with it. If you need a break, you take that break. I've been using crayons for quite a while now, and I definitely need to take breaks sometimes. So I'll give you guys a moment to kind of catch up with that if you need to. These marks in the sky right here, put this up close. So you see that? Those will come much later. We'll put those blue, I'd like to think of it as wind. We'll put that blue wind in there much, much later. Mostly because I want you guys to get accustomed to making all these types of brushstrokes in there. You'll also find that I usually say the word brushstroke when really I don't mean brushstroke. We're obviously using crayons. It just kind of happens, you know? All right. And if I'm ever going a little bit too quickly, please feel free to interrupt me. That is totally okay. Let me know to slow down a little bit. So since we have two different kinds of rivers, I'll just kind of explain a little bit about both. I will be starting with one line on one side, and you can make it a little bit more more zigzaggy if you want to. So this line right here definitely has some tighter bends in it. It's definitely not going to be symmetrical. See, I even went on this side and made it a little bit more squiggly right over here. However, this one got some nicer, much more even sections here. This one actually looks more like a stream, if you ask me. So it really doesn't matter which one you go for. I just like to be complicated, so I'm going to show you how to do the complicated one just in case that's what you want to do. But if you don't want to do the complicated one, that's okay. Just kind of make them a little bit more flat. It's your river. You do what you want with it. So get your blue, and up in the distance, way over here, the beginning of my river or stream is going to be much, much, much thinner. So I'm going to actually start on one side. It's going to come around here, and voila, go off to the side. And again, it's going to be much thinner right over here. Then gradually it's going to get a little bit thicker as we go along. And again, I like to complicate things. It's just what I do. Much thicker, way out here, closer to us. We call that perspective. So it's getting into perspective. And again, this is our dreamland. This is our little dreamscape. So it's okay if it's not perfect. Didn't have to be. We won't really put in our stream texture just yet. We'll do that in a little bit. So you can see I was kind of in the zone on this one, so it looks a little nicer. Not so much on this one, but I just kind of made it work. Now, using crayon has really opened up my eyes to just going with the flow, quite literally sometimes, just doing whatever comes to mind, whatever makes me feel happier in that moment. So let's jump into our greens now. So I'm going to set my blue aside, and I have my 3 greens. However, I'm going to start with my main green, the green that you want to show up the most in our picture. So for me, it's going to be this yellow green. It's my medium one. You can see much lighter versions of it, like the greenish yellow. The light one's going to be in here somewhere. Obviously, the dark green there. But most of it is that middle one. So I'm going to start with that one. And this is the part where, if you wanted to, you could practice a little bit on your spare sheet of paper. This is the kind of motion I'm going to be doing. And you could say that I'm actually using mostly my wrist. It's my wrist that's moving like that. I'm kind of curving it a little bit, but you definitely don't have to if you don't want to. I like to think of these as tufts of grass. We're going to be drawing lots of tufts of grass. I can make some small tufts of grass. Now, the smaller ones, I can squeeze way back here. The much bigger ones, if you need to, put your elbow into it. So this is what I mean. I'm moving back and forth. That's my elbow. Elbow moving. Again, take your time with it. Only do what makes you comfortable. Putting your elbow into it like that, if you want to. That's if you want the bigger ones. So it's completely up to you. Naturally, because we're dealing with having grass in the background, it is going to have to be a little bit smaller once you get back here. But for the most part, it can be whichever one you're more comfortable with. So let's get started. We're drawing tufts of grass. I'm going to start in the middle because I'm more comfortable right here. Scribble, 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 scribble. The nice thing about doing, I guess, drawings like this is that you can make it as abstract as you want it to be. Really, the meaning of abstract is just to take something that is something like grass and make it simpler. That's how you abstract it. Make it simpler. Turn something a little more complicated into something a little bit less complicated, at least visually. See that? It's kind of bending and curving just a little bit. I'm drawing my patches of grass. Now, they don't have to overlap. They can, but they don't have to. In fact, if I wanted to make them a little further apart, I could. I'll just fill in those spaces with some other things, like maybe some flowers. Or maybe I'll fill in these spaces with my darker green, or maybe my lighter green up at the top. And again, take a little break when you need to. Always need to take breaks. Feel free to create a few of these. If you happen to go really quickly with this and breeze through them, that's okay. I also would like to ask if there's anyone who'd like to show us their work yet. If not, that's okay. But I always love to see student work, and I love that. I love it when people share it too. So if there's anyone who'd like to show us, you're more than welcome to take your video off so we can all see it. But I'm going to give my hand a little bit of rest for now. Just kind of stretch it. I think I'm good. Now, at any point, if you're tired of doing the same, I almost said brush strokes again. Of course, if you're tired of doing the same mark making, you're more than welcome to switch it up and do the smaller ones. Just kind of take your time with it. Maybe up here, I'll put some darker greens. I haven't decided. We'll see how it goes. But it's kind of funny, but when in those first several months after being diagnosed with MS, I just kind of sat in my studio for a really long time and just didn't really do much of anything. I didn't really feel like I could. And I don't know, my watercolor pencils and eventually crayons just kind of helped me to get out of that funk. I wonder if we have any artists on board today. Does anybody do art in their spare time? I know that when I was sitting in my studio, I would often think of stories in my head. And these stories would always pertain to whatever I was doing, whatever I was making at that moment. I would just kind of let my mind wander and just let the thoughts go. And it sort of almost became like meditation at some point. I didn't judge anything that came out of my hand, didn't judge anything that came out of my head. It just is what it is. Because sometimes that's all you can do with MS, just kind of accept it, unfortunately. Now I am making lots of tufts of grass. I might want to go in and fill in some of this space. Like this over here, way over here. Hands getting tired again, so I'm probably gonna rest in a minute. I'm truly surprised that this green crayon has not broken yet, but as many times as I use it. Now, something else you can do is maybe overlap and have some of your green overlap some of your blue lines here. That's what grass does. It kind of gets into everything. So it's totally okay to overlap that. Ta-da. There we go. I'm almost done. I'm excited. Now, the nice thing about doing things like this, really simple things like this, is that you have power in numbers. Um, Often, and if you attend other lessons, you'll be able to see that I often repeat the same things, but in different ways. So I'll often make something using lines, and it will be the same type of line again and again, but in a different kind of project, maybe, or maybe it looks a little different somehow. Maybe I use different colors. Basically, I don't feel like there's any need to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. Um, and I honestly feel like there is power in repetition, doing things again and again and again. That's how you get better at things. And when I was first diagnosed with MS, that's kind of what I did, honestly. I would just do things again and again and again, even though I failed so many times. And my artwork back then really wasn't very good. I kept at it, and I feel like it did help me in that moment. Power in numbers here. Look at that. We did, this looks like a meadow because we repeated the same things again and again. So this is so exciting. Now, at any point, anytime you are finished using your main green, you can go in and choose, I would say maybe do the lighter of the greens first if you have a lighter one. Go on the top of some of these patches of grass. I'm going to target those areas that have a larger amount of space in them. Like this is a patch of grass here, so I can kind of squeeze it in at the top. Now, it's not really going to make any sense, and you're definitely gonna see where it ends in some spaces. But again, we have that power in numbers advantage. It will look normal because there will be plenty of them. See that? I can target this space here. And once you have a pretty good amount of your second green, you can go in with your dark green. So I'll probably add a little bit more of this, but let me show you what it looks like with that dark green. I'm targeting the bottom of some of these patches. See that? This was a patch right here. So I'm going on the bottom. This one, that's that first patch that I started with. Go on the bottom. It's a little bit shorter. Mostly I'm making them short because I don't want them to overpower the main color. So just kind of keep that in mind. I don't want to overpower it, so I'm not going to. And you don't have to target every single patch of grass. It is a lot. Just kind of pick the ones with a lot of open space underneath, like this one. So kind of go in the space a little bit, but also in the patch, of course. Same thing with this. There's not too many places to target. I guess I can go on this side. At a certain point, they kind of look like signatures. I always like to think of your artwork as your signature. It's going to be unique. It's going to be all you. It is all you in this picture. So embrace it the same way you embrace your picture or your signature. There we go. Almost done. I think I'm going to have this little pieces of grass kind of sticking through or sticking out through the river. Like so. You can always go back and add some more of your main green or any of your greens if you need to. Actually, if you have more greens to add, then by all means, please do it. Now that was a lot. If you made it this far, then good for you. Because man, it's a lot of grass. Probably in another few seconds or so, I'll show you how to do the water. And then if you have a sky, we'll do the sky. Would anyone like to show off their work? You don't have to show your face if you don't want to. You're more than welcome to show off your work. All right. All right. Anyone before I move on? All right, so let's go to our blue. Now, this blue, if I talked about a signature before, this one's definitely going to feel like a signature. Let me just show you the example. So I was a little sloppy with this one. I just wanted to go pretty quickly with it. But this one right here, this one's more like it. So I tried to go with the shape of the river like this. So kind of sort of following, going up and down like so, because the river, if you think about it, the stream is going to be flowing this way. So I want my I almost said brushstrokes again. I want my mark making to be similar in that it's following the river. So it doesn't have to be long brushstrokes or anything like that. Start, if you want to, you can start on the larger section, but if it's easier for you, then feel free to start on the smaller section. So kind of like that. Scribble, scribble, scribble away. Now, that was a much longer patch than I anticipated. I just kind of went with it. Kind of go like that. Again, I'm facing, or well, my mark making is kind of going with the river. Squeezing it all the way in there. And then just got to get this part. Kind of like that. And then at any point, you can actually go back in with your purple. And I just sort of put a little bit of purple here and there just to highlight some sections. So it looks like I mostly targeted the bottom of my marks here. So you can start that way if you want. Kind of targeting those empty spaces, but definitely want to overlap that blue. Again, take your time with it. I tend to go a little bit overboard when it's a color that I love. And that's a lot of purple. Oh well. So again, here's the other one. That's what that can look like. In a moment, maybe I'll give you guys another minute or so. And then for those of us who have a sky, teach you how to do what I think of as the wind. I think I probably will put some flowers in my picture. Figure out what colors to put. I know here in Texas we get, we get a lot of blue bonnets. We get a lot of yellow corn, or not corn, yellow cone flowers and purple cone flowers. Lots of paintbrush flowers. It's really beautiful. Now for the sky, I used a different kind of blue. So let me just I need my scrap paper because I need to find it again. So it wasn't this one. That's a little dark in my opinion. Something a little lighter is what I'm going for. This one seems okay, but I'll choose this one. Let's go with that one. So this one definitely more like a signature in that I'm using my wrist to really make it more flowy. And if you happen to have that scrap piece of paper, you could always practice up here. Flowy, like that. Do it as many times as you need. I think on this particular picture, I noticed that what I was doing in the beginning, let me show you up close actually. In the beginning, it started to look a whole lot like my grass down here. So that's when I decided, okay, no, it needs to be a little bit longer. Those brush strokes need to be a little bit more flowy, not quite so jagged. So the best way to do things like this is just to go. Do it. Just like that. No regrets. Just go and do it. I put 2 marks on top of that and just kind of, I'm just going to let it be. I'm going to let it do its own thing up there. Now, this took a lot less time than I anticipated. So is there anyone who would like me to repeat a certain step? Like I can go back to my scrap piece of paper and show you how to do it again. I do need to show you how to do the flowers. So let's see. Let's go to whatever color this is and make those tiny little dots. If you ask me, these dots just drive me crazy. Just the act of doing them drives me insane. So I don't really have any patience for too many dots, but they're so rewarding to have in the end. So I tolerate them. They remind me of a painting style called Pointillism. And Pointillism is created using just dots. That's it. People can get really technical with that kind of style. Me, I would go crazy. But I am going to put these flowers in patches because flowers tend to grow clustered together for the most part. I mean, you might see some stragglers here and there outside of the group, the field, but for the most part, they grow together. And I'm mostly targeting those emptier spots, unless it's something like on top of the orange, then that's fine. Like here, there's orange right here. I'll do one more color. I really do love this scarlet and purple combination. So I'm going for that. Now, if you don't want any flowers, then you definitely don't have to put any flowers. I'm just going to call it a day. There we go. Now, my mountains, they kind of remind me of the desert, like West Texas. It's beautiful up there. I've been to West Texas 2 times. And just the plateaus and the colors. Believe it or not, you will see on certain seasons, you'll see rivers out there. It does rain out there. Not very much, but it does. All right. I think I've got enough flowers in there. Are there any questions from you guys? Is there anything y'all would like me to repeat? I'd love to be able to see anyone's artwork. So if you don't want to show it now, that's okay. You're more than welcome to email me or email Casey if you'd like. If that's okay, if I don't want to speak for you, Casey. But you're more than welcome to.
Absolutely, that's okay.
Awesome, good. I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat box. So you are more than welcome to email if you'd like to show off a little bit or ask some more questions. hgarrisonart@gmail.com. There we have it.
Oh, Susan.
Yay, Susan. Look at that. Beautiful, Susan. Oh, I love your patches and I love your mountains. That particular blue and green combination is beautiful. Yay, thank you for showing us, Susan. Lovely. So cool. Would anyone else like to show off?
I don't have crayon, so I had to do mine in Photoshop.
Oh man, how cool. That is super cool. Do you have the capability of showing us? I don't know if that's possible.
I think if I can, I think I can share my screen. I'm not for sure. Let me see.
I will have to give you that ability. One second.
Cool.
Should be able to now.
Okay, let me see. Okay, I think it's.
Oh, there we go. Wow, Louie, this is so cool. Just the fact that you did it in Photoshop was awesome.
It's a little cheating because I mean, I can undo things. So.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But that's okay. You just have an extra tool. That's it. Very cool. I love it, Louie. Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice. Oh, I love it. I love seeing people's work. I hope you all continue to do art or maybe experiment a little bit more with crayons. I promise it is empowering is what I'm trying to say. Just the idea of doing something very loose like this and making the most out of your ability is basically the takeaway here. So if you do anything else, you're more than welcome to email, ask questions. Any other questions? I think we're good.
I'd love to know what's planned for next week.
Yes, so for next week, oh man, where is my picture? I will basically be we'll be taking our hand and we'll use whatever medium you have. I happen to have highlighters, so I'm actually going to be using highlighters. With a pen, we'll trace our hand out, and then we'll use those highlighters to sort of create an optical illusion and sort of try to draw our hand using lines. I know it's kind of hard to imagine, but I have so many different like papers up here. I don't know where it went. I don't know where the image went, but Casey will be able to post it. And I believe it does go out in the newsletter. Is that right, Casey?
Yes.
Yes. So the image does go out in the newsletter, so you'll be able to see it there. But just know that all you'll need is your hand, a piece of paper, I would actually get a pencil and a pen, and whatever medium you choose that's bright and colorful. So for me, it's going to be a highlighter. So any other questions?
Registration for that event is up on our msfocus.org website in the events section, and I'm pretty sure the picture of the artwork is up there already.
You know what? Yeah, I think I did see a picture of the artwork. So I'm trying to see if I can find a link to the registration. Agents, I'll find it, I'll get to it.
I found it.
Ah, yes.
And I'll put that in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Casey.
There's the link in the chat for the sign up for next week's class with Hannah.
Thank you, Casey.
You're very welcome.
I don't think the picture is on there, but
Not, so we'll get that up.
awesome. Cool. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you guys showing up and making it and creating some art with us. So you guys have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Hannah.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.